Is it too late to get into Bitcoin right now? Many would think so after Bitcoin hitting $60,000 already, but I'm going to tell you why you are not too late, and I have some statistics and market analysis to share with you here to justify my point. So let's dive into it. Welcome to Crypto Corner, everyone, your crypto radar for all of the latest news, reviews, market analysis, and tutorials that help you master the cryptocurrency market. Before we start, a quick disclaimer that this is not a financial or investment advice. These are my opinions and my personal market analysis that I share with you here to help you further your research. This is episode 192 of the Crypto Corner podcast here on my YouTube channel, which I have been running since 2016. So in the past 5 years, I've shared with you many of my Bitcoin and crypto related opinions, and dare I say, I've always been right about Bitcoin for sure. Back in 2016, I called it better than gold, a sentiment that at the time was shared by just a few, but lately it became clear that both retail and institutional investors agree with me, and we saw even banks opening their books to Bitcoin after seeing a massive exodus from gold in favor of Bitcoin, and mainly throughout last year. Indeed, Bitcoin's epic rise from zero to being worth thousands of dollars today was a relatively speedy affair. In the past decade, Bitcoin has surpassed not only gold but every other investment instrument in terms of percentage returns. So it really became the new gold rush for many of us. And as I said, I've got some statistics for you. So these are the Bitcoin returns against gold returns and S&P 500, which is the stock market. It's one of the stock market indexes, so it's the most popular one. This is why we use it. In the second year of Bitcoin, we go to 500% returns. Gold at that point is making 49% returns. This is compared, and S&P 500 is also 49%. This is compared to the starting price in the first year of Bitcoin, so we're talking 2009. In the third year, Bitcoin goes through a big correction, so the price goes down. We are now back at only 41% returns from the starting point. Gold at this point is 48% returns from that same starting point, and S&P 500 is 38% from that starting point. So we can say that gold here in the third year of Bitcoin, gold was performing a little bit better, something like 7%. And since then, what's happening in the fourth year of Bitcoin, it's already at 2,900% return since the starting point. Gold at this point is 65%. S&P 500 63%. The fifth year of Bitcoin is seeing it jump to 5,000% from the starting point. Gold is at 76%, not bad at all, but 76% compared to 5,000%, guys. There is no question about it. And then as we progress, you can see this is only going up. Of course, in the seventh year, so this is 2018, we saw a big correction in Bitcoin, and it went down by something like 60-70%. This is why from 7,000% from the previous year we drop to 3,000% from the starting point, but it is still a very good return compared to everything else. And now in the 10th year of Bitcoin, last year 10th year of Bitcoin, we produced 9.5 million return from the starting point. Of course, last year alone was 350% gains return in Bitcoin. You cannot argue with that. There is nothing that can actually beat this. And here is a different chart that is also helping you to just visualize this same thing that we just mentioned. So this is against Bitcoin versus gold versus S&P 500. And S&P 500 is the one in black, gold is the one in green, Bitcoin is orange, is that specific orange, which is always the color of Bitcoin. So what we see here in the last 10 years, this is Bitcoin's performance against gold and against S&P 500. In the last 2 years alone, this is Bitcoin's performance against gold and against S&P 500, the stock market. So Definitely, there is no argument between which one is the better investment tool. And especially if we're talking medium term. So in the next 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 years, we're not talking lifetime, we're not talking 20, 30, 50 years down the line. We're talking over the next 5 or 10 years. So this is, short to medium term for many people. For a long-term investment portfolio, definitely 5 years is short. So for that period of time, Bitcoin is really the one that is making you the biggest gains. And if you listen to me back in 2016, you would have already been a millionaire. What are the chances that you will make a profit with Bitcoin over the next few years? This is the question. And specifically, in fact, over this year, what can Bitcoin bring you this year so that you can consider getting involved right now if you're not yet involved with Bitcoin? At the end of last year, I published an article and a video as well with the boldest Bitcoin price predictions by prominent investors, analysts, and public figures, and I will have it linked in the description below for your reference. From what we saw, actually, the more conservative views were citing figures for Bitcoin between $50,000 and $100,000 by the end of this year. The boldest ones were going beyond 300,000 per a single Bitcoin. Is it just a hype? I don't think so. I've talked about the fundamentals of Bitcoin and what makes it valuable many times already. Its limited supply is exactly the opposite to what government-issued currencies are doing. Also, its censorship resistance is possibly its strongest advantage. And on top of that, it reduces its supply as time goes by. Again, the opposite to what we get with fiat money. And for those who are not really familiar with this term, fiat is the term we use for what many people call real money or government-issued paper money, something that in a few years' time will probably become obsolete. Maybe collector's items, we'll see, I'm not really sure, but nothing more than that. If you don't believe me, bookmark this video and let's revise it in a decade or so. Anyway, the purchasing power of your paper money is weakened every time a new batch is being printed. And with the global economic crisis as a result of the prolonged shutdown of many economies around the world, many businesses around the globe, most governments are now printing money all the time in order to provide support for their citizens. But this is a short-term solution that will have, unfortunately, long-term detrimental effects. More supply means devaluation of this currency, and investors have turned to Bitcoin as one of their best bets against this. Why? As I said, limited supply, 21 million coins for the whole world. Ever. That's it. No more. It's also unhackable and nothing can alter or change a transaction once it's completed. No one can stop it or confiscate it as well. If you know, gold was actually confiscated back in the 30s in the United States, in the USA, not just any obscure country, and in many other countries as well back in the day. And gold is also harder to hide or transport. It is bulkier, it is heavier. But enough about that. I've already exhausted the topic of why Bitcoin is better than gold in today's day and age, and we concluded that gold is for the boomers generation, while Bitcoin is for you and me, the modern thinking folk. Now, let's look at some of the technical analysis that justifies my point that you are not too late to get into Bitcoin. Right now, we are seeing Bitcoin breaking the $60,000 price level, marking the first time it has surpassed this psychological resistance level in history. And we closed the historically red month of March in positive, in the green. If you remember, I talked about March being historically a bad month for Bitcoin, with 8 out of the last 10 years printing negative returns throughout the month of March. Well, this is now the third year in its entire history that we saw a positive return in March, and the second quarter of the year is actually historically a great time for the cryptocurrency, which is raising the prospects that it will keep going higher into the new quarter. But can we go higher? Well, indeed, wrapping up the year at $100,000 is decent for many traders and investors. that would be more than 300% increase from the beginning of the year when we were at 30,000, or it will be around 90% increase from today's value. We are around 60,000. It is a rewarding return on investment by any standard. But the Bitcoin's halving epoch scale is suggesting that more than triple of that price growth could be attained in the near term. According to data from Coinmetrics, modified by Charts BTC, a Twitter account that I'm actually following, and they post a lot of charts which I'm using in my market research and analysis, we see that every 4 years Bitcoin is halving, and this creates a cycle. And according to this chart, Bitcoin is on its way to $300,000 this year. Each epoch scale is 20 times the previous one. And the Bitcoin epoch in this case is a market cycle that is lasting 4 years, that comes with specific mining rewards that started in 2009. This is in simple terms the amounts of Bitcoin units that are being produced. At the beginning, each block mined was producing 50 new coins, which was approximately every 10 minutes. And it's still pretty much every 10 minutes we have a new block. And this has been going on for 12 years now, but every 4 years the production is being halved, meaning that we have now 3 of these halvings, so we end up with just 6.25 new coins produced every 10 minutes rather than 50. Each 4-year period, as displayed on the chart here, was seeing the price surging dramatically from the genesis to the first halving cycle in 2012. So this is the first cycle here, the first epoch. We have from 2009 to 2012. Bitcoin is going from 0 to around $25. At some point it managed to actually surpass $25. After that it starts a correction. It corrects almost 80% or even more than 80%, and then it starts the recovery. After the recovery, we are seeing the entering of the new cycle or the next epoch. And the next epoch is seeing another halving at 2016. The second and the third epoch are basically seeing the 2 halvings in 2016 and then in 2020. So as we can see in 2013, after the halving, we are seeing a super pump here in Bitcoin going to over $1,000 from around 1250 actually, and going to 1250. This is an all-time high, and then it starts correcting. It drops another 80%. It drops to $250. It completes this cycle and it starts a recovery. This recovery is actually coinciding with the next halving, which is taking it to 2016. Then in the following year, 2017, we're actually seeing go to more than 1,000, more than 10,000, more than 15, hitting an all-time high of 20,000, and after that starting another correction, dropping down 80%, and completing this cycle in 2019. After that starts recovering and going towards the next cycle, which is seeing here in 2020, the next halving, which occurred in May, and that was at the price at around $8,000. Now, since then, Bitcoin managed to surpass the $10,000, surpass the $20,000, surpass the $30,000 and the $40,000 as well. And it's taking us now into this epoch here, the fourth one, where the price can easily actually take us to 300,000 before we correct and before we start the next recovery. So during this epoch, if Bitcoin is to do anything like what is done in the previous, even if it's just going to do something like this, we can easily see Bitcoin well above the 200,000 mark. And this is in dollars, of course. Now, this is a different chart that is displaying a similar scenario. So what we can see here is the first halving, or the first cycle, is the lighter here. And then we had the first halving. Then we go into the second cycle, the orange one here, the light beige, I would say. We entered the next cycle, which is here in the orange. We started this cycle below $1,000. We actually started it at around $700-800, and then we went all the way to $20,000. After that, we corrected heavily, and then we started a recovery. And then we entered the next cycle, which is the current cycle where we are now. We started this cycle at around 10,000. and so far we managed to go to around 60,000. You can see actually how early in this cycle we are compared to these cycles, where the peak is usually around here, or in this case the peak was actually in the third quarter of this cycle. But what we can expect here is that either here or as late as this quarter we will be topping up and we will be reaching the top of this cycle. After that we will start correcting, and after correction we will start a recovery. Most likely we will be reaching this top here in this period, and this period is actually this year. So this is what we have to watch out for. Whether it is 100k or 300k, it is yet to be confirmed. I will be doing more market analysis and I will be keeping you up to date in order to find out exactly what we can expect. But in any case, Bitcoin is definitely at the beginning of this massive bull run that will see it grow exponentially and go parabolic at some point. And this is when we're going to be surpassing the 100k level, and anything beyond 100k is going to be triggered by a lot of FOMO and hype. So can we go to 300k? Yes, we can. As things start going parabolic and the full FOMO kicks in, we can actually see that happening. We saw Bitcoin go from 7,000 to 20,000 in just a few weeks back in 2017. This is in the previous epoch, 2017. Bitcoin actually reached from throughout the year, it went from 1,000 to 20,000, but it really started kicking off here, somewhere here, in the middle of the year, when it went to 7,000, and then it really went parabolic and it went to 8,000, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 within a matter of a couple of months. Literally week after week we were setting new all-time highs, and nobody expected that Bitcoin will actually get to that price levels. Everyone thought that around 10,000-15,000 it will top out. However, we managed to get to 20,000 and then we corrected heavily. So as you can see, this is how the market cycles are actually developing. And right now, this is yet another visualization of this. Right now, we are still in the first third of that cycle. We have 2/3 more to cover until this cycle is over. But in that cycle, we have a top and we have a new bottom that we need to reach. So during this cycle, we will be reaching a new top, and then we will be correcting heavily, and we will be finding a bottom, and then we shall be recovering from that bottom, and only then we will be completing this cycle. And back to this chart again. So the second and the third cycles here, which stretch from the first to second and the second to third halvings, sent Bitcoin by 20 times increase. Now we're in the next cycle that goes from the third to the fourth halvings, and Bitcoin could follow the same pattern as before, and it could surge 20 times in the near term, with the potential to surge even higher in the years ahead. But should history repeat itself, Bitcoin could hit 300,000 this year. This also fits with the predictions of other analysts and prominent figures in crypto, such as the Winklevoss twins, Bobby Lee, Tom Fitzpatrick, a Citibank analyst, Adam Back, the CEO of Blockstream, which is the core developers team for Bitcoin's protocol, Scott Minard from Guggenheim Partners, and also Max Kaiser, financial analysts and a very famous TV show host of the Kaiser Report, and also Tim Draper, amongst others. Tim Draper is a very prominent investor. So, back to the question, are you late to get into Bitcoin in 2021? Well, it's clear now, you are not late, and although you may not make thousands of % returns at this point, you can still make hundreds, a few 100% in fact, returns. Compared to any other investment right now, I just don't see what else can beat this. So, as always, use this video as a reference point and build on it with some more research. Make an informed decision and be aware that at some point during this market cycle, we will top out and we will go down after that. So, there will be a period when Bitcoin will be producing negative returns, and make the most of this. At least you know now how things work and what we can learn from past experience, so use this to your advantage. If you like the information presented to you today, show your support by leaving a like and a comment below. And also, if you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe or follow button depending on which platform you are watching this on. I'm posting on several platforms, including BitTube, and big shout out to my BitTube followers and also Publish 0x. I see you guys, you're liking my content a lot, which is appreciated. Also, you can subscribe to my crypto newsletter from the link in the description below. You will also find there other important links too, so check them out. This is everything for this episode, guys. I'm signing off and I'm going to see you tomorrow in the next one.